This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, and good to have people online. Even better to have people in person. So thank you, and those who can make it in person, please do when you can. Okay, so we're on page 900. We're starting over here on page 900, Parshat Matot. This week is a double Parsha, Matot Masai. And for anyone who travels to or from Israel, they let out a sigh of relief at this point, because since Pesach was a long time ago, huh? Since Pesach, we've been off a week with our Torah reading. Our 8th day of Pesach was Shabbos, so we had a special Pesach reading. For them, it was the day after Pesach. They only have 7 days. So for them, they started reading the regular Torah Parshiot, and we've been one off since then. Right? This Shabbos, we're going to read 2. They read Matos last week. They'll read Masai this week. We read Matos Masai, and we're back in sync again until the next time that we go off sync. Okay, so we're going to focus mostly on some different parts of Parshas Matos, and I want to end off with a little bit of the idea of Masai. But Matos begins, Vaydaber Moshe. Moshe spoke El Rashei HaMatot, to the heads of the tribes of Yisroel Lemor, Zeh Hadavar Shetziva Hashem. This is the matter that God has commanded. Ish ki yidor neder laHashem. If a person makes a neder, an oath, a vow, we'll soon explain to God. Oh, he shavash shvuah, or a person swears. Le'asor isar al nafsho, to make something prohibited to oneself. Lo yachel divaro, he shall not desecrate his words. Kechol hayotzei mipiv ya'aseh, all that which comes out from his mouth, ya'aseh, the person must do. You must do what you said that you would do. And this is actually a very, very fascinating insight that we have here. The Torah says certain things are allowed and certain things are prohibited. We have our mitzvot, our aseh, our positive commands, and our mitzvot lo ta'aseh, and our mitzvot lo ta'aseh, the commands, the prohibitions. Linda, I just need to mute you, otherwise we get a bit of bounce back. Our understanding in these mitzvot that we have is that a positive command is an act which God, through the Torah, tells us is a way to build a connection with Him. And the prohibition, that is an act which will cause a separation, a distancing of us from God. And therefore, we are not allowed to do that. But if I pick up this cup, right, I'll make my bracha, which I will. This is something which I could utilize through making a blessing and expressing my appreciation both before and after I eat this to God, that it helps bring me close. But what I can do is I can make a neder or a shavua. A shavua is called an iser gavra. There I'm saying, I swear that I will not drink this. Or a neder is on the object. This is becoming prohibited to me like a sacrifice. So either way, whether it's the shavua that I will not partake of it, or it's the neder that this becomes something that's prohibited to me, now, lo yachel divaro, do not desecrate your words. Whatever you say, you have got to keep. You must do. So in this situation, you must do whatever you said you are going to do. That is the shvuah, that is the neder. And this now takes on a Torah level prohibition. Simply from the words of my mouth. The words of my mouth have transformed the status of this cup of water from something that was perfectly allowed to something that becomes prohibited to me. And lo yachel devaro, do not desecrate your words. Your words carry tremendous, tremendous power. I'm always moved when I'm performing a wedding, and there we are under the chuppah, and by the groom saying to the bride, Hariyat mekudeshetli, you are consecrated, you are betrothed to me. The tabat zu, with this ring, kidat, according to the laws of Moshe Yisroel, and he puts it on her finger and she accepts that. At that point, those words have transformed the status of this young man, not sorry, young, of this man and this woman. And now there are different dinim that apply, different laws that apply, right? Many of which are outlined in the ketubah, the obligations of the husband to the wife, the fidelity that must now exist in this relationship. That all changed. Had he given her the ring and not said anything, it would have been a very nice gift. She would now be the proud owner of a ring. But nothing will have changed in terms of their obligations, but it's the words that completely change, alter the whole landscape of these two people going forward. Yes, right. Right. So Rosa asked about divorce. If the relationship is not going well, so then the Torah allows for, right? I think in Christianity or Catholicism, it's not allowed, right? I'm not sure. I think not allowed. Yeah, but the Torah understands that we don't always make the best decisions. And certainly a tremendous amount of effort needs to be put into trying to maintain the relationship. But there are times where it makes the most sense for them each to go their own separate ways and find, or not, all right, a partner in life. So yes, there is a whole process of a get, and it is somewhat of a lengthy process. I once had a situation that a guy called me. I got to divorce my wife. Right? Can you help me, Rabbi? Right? I need a beit din. I need a lawyer. And this was like on a Thursday night or a Friday. And I said, look, the beit din, why don't you look into it? Here's the website, but they're not, and it's there, why don't you call this lawyer on Monday, next week? No, I got to speak to him right now. I said to the guy, I said, it's interesting. In the Gemara, in the tractate of Gittin, of divorce, there is a certain type of get called a get kereach. And as opposed to a regular get, which is written out, here you write a line, you fold it over, and it needs to be signed. You write the next line, fold it over, sew it, and signed. Written a line over and over and over. Why was that very strange get established? Because of Kohanim. Because of hot-headed Kohanim. Because if a Kohen divorces his wife and he realizes, what did I do? a non-Kohen so they can remarry, as happens fairly often that divorced couples try again and remarry. A Kohen does not have that option because a Kohen is not allowed to marry a divorcee, even if it's his own divorcee, a woman that he divorced. He can't marry her. So therefore, we have this slow down process built into the get to make sure that all minds are calm, cool, calm, and collected before they jump into an irreversible step. And I explained that to this guy, and I said, why don't we take a few deep breaths? Let's talk again next week. All right, how long have you been married? We don't need to decide to terminate this, within a half hour, right? But next week, oh, everything's fine. Yeah. I said, good, good. I'm glad everything's fine. Yes, Linda. Okay, Linda asked a person who is mute, right? So how would a mute person, right, get married? Okay, so there are three ways to effect the first stage of marriage, which is Kedushin. One of them is with something of value. That's, we use a ring, and you say Hariyat Mekudeshli, you betrothed to me with this ring, right? A mute person would have a problem doing that. Another way is through having intimate relations, and then he would need to say before they go into the room, and there would need to be witnesses outside the room. He'd say, I marry me with this relations, or it could also be done through a shtar, through a document. One could write Hari Amikudeshetli Bishtar Zu, not the ketubah, not to be confused with the ketubah, the wedding contract, so to speak. But kedushin could also be done with a document. So a mute person, that's how they would affect that. But coming back here, we see that the effect of our words is tangible, right? Now, I grew up with sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never harm me, right? But in fact, I think if we look back to times that we have been harmed, pain that we have felt, then certainly it's more the emotional pain that we felt at times, or the pain caused by something someone said or didn't say. That is a lot deeper than any physical harm that might have been inflicted upon us. And actually, the Ramban famously asks back in Bereshit, God said, Vayomer Hashem Yehi Or, God said, let there be light, Vayehi Or, and there was light. Who was God speaking to when there was no one, nothing here? So it means, he says, God willed that there would be light, and there was light. Okay. So if that's the case, so why did the Torah express that as in God said, as opposed to God willed? And that is to make us realize that words create and words destroy. Words create and words destroy. And there is this reality to our words that we often dismiss or don't take seriously enough. I would just add, going back to that perhaps another reason why it's written like that is, if you feel a certain way, you should say it, express it, right? Someone once said, and it's an expression I enjoyed and I've shared with others, gratitude that is not expressed is like a gift that is never delivered, right? I bought this person a gift, but it's still sitting in my garage. Well, what good is that doing? right? So God willed there to be light. The Torah expresses it. God said, let there be light, meaning make sure that both for the positive and the negative, right? The Pasuk says, Lo tisna achicha bilvavecha, don't hate your friend in your heart. Rather, what should you do? Ramban says, sit down with that person. If you've got some beef, you've got some issues, sit down with the person. You insulted me. You neglected me. You were rude to me, right? You ignored me. Whatever it might be. Years ago, when I was living, I went to Meron on Lag BaOmer. Meron, it is a mass. There was a tragedy there a couple of years ago. There's such a mass of people. And I get a phone call a week later, right? You ignored me in Meron. I ignored you? I didn't see you. Yeah, you walked right past me. I walked right past 10,000 people, right, in the half hour that I was there. I didn't see the person. I apologized. I said, believe me, I had no intent to ignore you, to insult you. I didn't see you. I apologize. But it's good, at least the person brought it up to me, right? So you have to express it. And when we have positive things to express, certainly we need to express it. We could create or we can destroy. The Gemara also has a number of situations that a kilalat chinam, right? If a person says something, then it has a certain reality to it. And we'll see, let's jump a little bit now to the end of Parshas Matos. And we have page 910, Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Aleph. We have, let's see these psukim. Where are we now, time-wise, chronologically, at this point in the Torah? We are at the precipice. We're about to enter into the land of Israel. We left Egypt how long ago? Just about 40 years earlier. It was meant to be a short stint in the desert on our way to Israel because of the sin of the Meraglin, of the spies and their slanderous report, and our accepting their slanderous report, which of course all took place on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av, which became designated as a day where we will be mourning over our expulsion from Israel. The day that we didn't want to enter into Israel became the date of our expulsion from Israel at a much later point. So because of that, we wandered in the desert for 40 years, and here we are now. We have fought against Sichon and Og, which are with the countries, the kings who ruled over the east bank of the Jordan. The east bank, what is present day the country of Jordan, Transjordan, that's where we are now camped. We've taken over that area, and we're getting ready to enter into the land of Israel. We're finishing the book of Bamidbar, Devarim. The next sefer is all of Moshe speaking the last weeks, months, whatever it is of his life. In the end, he's going to die, and we're not going to enter into the land of Israel with us. That will take place in the book of prophets. Joshua will lead us in. But we're about ready to go in. And what happens? The tribes, the children of Reuven and Gad, had much abundant livestock. And they saw the land of Yazer, the land of Gilad. And this was fantastic grazing grounds. This is present day Jordan. And they came. Who came? Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven came, and they said to Moshe, to Elazar Kohen, to the Nesiim, they said, oh, All these places, Atarot, Divon, Yazen, Nimra, Cheshbon, Alei, Svam, Nebo, Vaon, the land that God has smitten before the nation of Israel is a land that is great for livestock. And guess what? And we have livestock. They say, if we found favor in your eyes, give us this land as our portion, as our heritage. Al Tavirenu et Hayardain. Don't bring us across the Jordan. Moshe is having a bad memory that this is triggering. Vayomer Moshe l'nei Reuven. Moshe said to the sons of God and Reuven, what, your brother's going to go into battle against the nations there, and you're going to sit here? Et Leiv. Why are you causing this fluttering or dissuading, this fluttering, this movement of the hearts of Bnei Yisrael to cross to the land that God has given us? This happened once before, Moshe says. This is what your fathers did. When I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land, and they went to Nachal Eshkol, they saw the land, and they shook, they dissuaded, they caused the trembling of the hearts of Bnei Yisrael to not come to the land that God had given them. And God got angered by Yomahu, and he swore to say, if any of the people left Egypt from 20 years and older will see this land that I swore to give to Isaac and Yaakov, they have not followed after me. Bilti, we turn the page to 912, exception being Kalev, Ben Yefuna, Yoshua, Ben Nun. Those were the two of the 12 tribes who came back with a positive report. And God got angry with Israel, and we've been wandering around this desert now for 40 years until that whole generation died. Pasuk Yudal 14. And now we've got this congregation of bad people, sinners, who are going to add on to the anger of God. And also, right, to remain here in this midbar, you will destroy this entire people. Moshe is blazing over here. And they came to him, and they said, Gidrot son nivneh, we will build places here for our flock. We'll build cities for our children. We will go first. We will arm ourselves quickly and go lifnei b'nei Yisrael. We will lead the battle in Israel until they will all be brought to their places. And only then will we return to our children in the Ari Mivsar, in these fortified cities that we have built. We will not return until everyone else has their portion. We will not take a portion across the Jordan because we received our portion here, but we're not staying here and sending everyone else to battle. We will go to battle. We will lead the battle. Vayomer Aleim Moshe Im Ta'asun et hadavar hazeh. If you will do this, if you'll go before God into this battle, and you will go across the Jordan before God until we conquer our enemies, then and the land is conquered, then you'll return, then you will be cleansed, right? You will be fine, and this land will be for you. Came, right? But if you will not do this, right, then you will have been sinning. Now it becomes, turn to page 914, then we'll double back. Now it becomes formalized. Pasuk Chavchet 28. And Moshe told Elazar the Kohen, Yeshua ben Nun, and the other leaders. 29. Moshe said to them, "In Yavru b'nei Gad b'nei Reuven, if they will cross the Jordan with you," because Moshe knew he needed Yoshua, he needed the elders. He knew he was not going to be privy to this. He would not be there to enforce this. If they will pass over in front of you to battle, and the land is conquered, then they will be given the land of Gilead as an inheritance. Pasuk Lamed 30. Vim lo yavru, if they will not go, then they'll get B'tochim Eretz Canaan. They will not get this land. That is what is called in halacha a t'nai kaful, a double condition. If this, then that. If not, then not. Why is that necessary? The Gemara learns out from here this idea that a condition must have this, if this, then that, and then the other clause. But if not, then not. Why do I need that second clause? If I've already said, if this, then that, then isn't it obvious that if I don't do that, then they will not get? Right? From the positive, you hear the negative. It needs to be spelled out. Why? That goes back to what we said before about the power of words. If you simply say, if the person will get this, does this, he'll get that. You said he'll get that. Oh, you said he'll get that. Period. Once you said it, you've got to do it, even though there needs to be, right? We need to have this Tanai kaful. It needs to be, if he does, yes, but if not, then not. You need the Tanai kodem lema'aseh. You can't say, I'll give you this if you do that. The order must be, if you do that, I'll give you this. As opposed to, I'll give you this if you do that. Why? Because once you said the words, I'll give you this, done. You said you're going to give it. That's what must be done. That is the power of the words. The Gemara, the Psukim earlier on, I think it's in Mishpatim, I didn't have a chance to look it up exactly, where we say, Hin tzedek. Hin is a measurement. Hin tzedek, your measurements, the hin measurement, let's say it's a 5-pound weight. Hin, it's got to be tzedek, it's got to be exact. You can't use falsified weights in order to cheat anybody. Hin tzedek. But the sages learn out, the Gemara learns out, your hein means yes. Your hein must be tzedek, and your lav must be tzedek. If you say yes, it must mean yes. If you say no, it must mean no. There is kedusha, there is holiness to our words. Lo yachel divaro. Don't, yachel means to make it, don't desecrate it, to make it non-kadosh, non-holy. Your word has to be holy. Lo yachel divaro. Do not desecrate your words. Well, let's come back a little bit over here to this whole up and back between B'nai Gad and B'nai Reuven. And let me just add one other point. So Moshe, still on 9:14, B'nai Gad 31 respond. They said, what you have said, we will do. We will go. We will do that. Pasuk Lamed Gimel 33. Very strange. Vayitein lehem Moshe. Okay, the deal was struck. Moshe gave Livnei Gad to the sons of God, Livnei Reuven, and to the sons of Reuven, Ulechatzi Shevet Menashe, and to half of the tribe of Menashe, Ben Yosef, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sichon and the kingdom of Og, right? What happened over here? What's very strange? Who just jumped into the story here who hasn't been there? Why half of Menashe? They didn't approach. They weren't part of this discussion. Why part half of Menashe? So let's double back again to 9:10, where we have over here the start of this. Moshe responded pretty harshly to their request over here. Kathy, I think we have a bit of a bounce back. So if you could just mute it, sorry. Thanks. Moshe responded very, very harshly to them. To Moshe, this was the repeat of the Meraglim. But we're going to see some very interesting intertextuality. And we'll see this is also almost a repeat of another situation. Go to page 912, verse 16. Vayikshu elav. Now they are responding. And it says they approached him. Vayomer, and they said, no, we'll build place for our children, for our flock, and we'll lead the battle. What seems to be extra over here is Vayikshu elav. They drew close to him. Where else have we had Vayigash elav? And he drew close to him. Good. Let's turn back. Keep the place over here. Judah and Joseph. Beautiful. Parshat Vayigash. It actually has the name Vayigash. Let's take a look on page 250. That's back in Bereshit, Parshat Vayigash. That is Bereshit, Perek Mem Daled, chapter 44, Pasuk Yudchet. Let's set the stage over here. The brothers sold Joseph down to Egypt in order to make sure his dreams would never come true. God incorporates our free will decisions into his master plan. He doesn't stop us from making our free will decisions, but he weaves that into the master plan. The master plan was, as Joseph had dreamt, that the brothers and father and mother, stepmothers in that case, would be bound down to him. They wanted to make sure that that will never happen. They therefore sold Joseph down to Egypt. Well, God said, that's how you want to play it? Fair enough. It's your selling him down to Egypt, which will lead to the fulfillment. And the brothers, in fact, came down to Egypt. And Joseph is the viceroy, and almost all bow down to him. All but one. Who was that one? Benjamin. But it was supposed to be 10. It was supposed to be all of the sheaves bowing down to him. And here there were only 10. Benjamin wasn't there. So Joseph needed to get Benjamin to come down. So what did he do? He said, you're spies, right? Unless you bring down that brother that you told me about, then you will not be able to get right. In the end, he sends some food anyhow, but says you can't get any more until you come back with Benjamin. He holds on to Shimon as collateral to make sure they're coming back. The brothers come back with Benjamin, first dream fulfilled. They all bow down. Yosef is afraid that the same way that they hated him, they perhaps hate Benjamin. They hated him because he was the son of the beloved wife Rachel, who was a favorite in the eyes of Jacob. He was afraid that certainly with his absence and with the death of Rachel, then all of Yaakov's favor will be focused on Benjamin, showing favoritism. And again, the brothers might hate him also. For safekeeping, he decides, I have to keep Benjamin here. How does he engineer that? He plants his goblet in Binyamin's bag. They sends them all out, sends a messenger. Why have you repaid bad for the good that my master not Joseph, but Satan Paneach has done for you? Right? They're all brought back. It's found in the bag of Binyamin. They all come back. Vayigash elav Yehuda. Yehuda now draws forward and starts to do what? To plead on behalf of his brother, his father and his brother. He's there to protect the family at his own personal danger. What he proposes to Joseph, not yet knowing that it's Joseph, what he proposes to this Egyptian viceroy is, I will stay as your slave, which is the ruling for someone who tried to steal from you. I will stay in his place. Send the lad back home. So what he was doing was stepping up on behalf of his family, on behalf of his brothers. What is the tribe of Gad and Reuven doing over here? The same. Vayikshu elav. They drew close to Moshe. And they said, we will take responsibility for the family. We will take responsibility for our brothers. This is not just, Moshe thought this was a redo of the Meraglim, of the spies. And they said, no, Moshe, this is a redo of Yehuda and of Yosef. That is what is happening over here. We will not, now remember, the brothers had literally left Yosef in the midbar, had left him in the desert. Right? There are two versions, two understandings of what happened. Are the brothers the one who actually sold Joseph, or did they leave him in the pit? And others pulled him out. Rashbam, we did this earlier, learns that others did it. But either way, they left him to his fate, either in the pit or in the hands of the people they sold him to. They left him in the midbar, in the desert. And the brothers now, Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, the sons of Gad and Reuven are saying, we are not repeating that. We are not going to leave our brothers in the desert. We are going to go with them. We will fight the battles, and only then will we return home. Menashe. Why is Menashe involved? Why is he getting part of this land? Who moved Menashe into the story over here? So there are a number of different approaches. First of all, it's interesting to note that when he says that back on page 914, Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Lamed Gimel, it says 33, and Moshe gave to the sons of Gad, the sons of Reuven, and to half the sons of Menashe, the son of Yosef. Isn't it interesting that we are invoking, we know who Menashe is. It's interesting that we are invoking Yosef over here, right? Perhaps that's also a way that the Torah is bringing us back to that whole episode of Yosef and Yehuda. So why is Menashe being included over here? Ramban gives a very, very practical answer. Ramban says the amount of land here was too much for 2 tribes, but not quite big enough for 3 tribes. So therefore, we needed to add another half of a tribe to the mix. And therefore, that's why Menashe got involved. Okay, so that explains why we needed another half a tribe to be in the mix over here. But we still need to understand why Menashe. Why Menashe? So we recently heard something about the children of Menashe. Let's look back to page 886. Perek Chav Zayin, Pasuk Aleph, chapter 27, verse 1. This is last week's Parsha. Vatikravna benot Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad. Who was Tzlafchad? Ben Chefer, the son of Chefer. Ben Gilad, the son of Gilad. Ben Machir, the son of Machir. Ben Menashe, the son of Menashe. Lemishpechot, of the families of Menashe ben Yosef. They came before Moshe. And what did they say? Pasuk Gimel. Our father died in the Midbar, in the desert. He was not part of Korach's rebellion. He died from his own sin. Ubanim lo hayulo, he didn't have any sons. Why should his name be erased, minimized? Tenu lanu achuzah b'toch achei avinu. Let us have his inheritance. Let us have his portion. Rashi points out over here, the family of Menashe ben Yosef, Lama Nemar. We already said that Menashe. We know Menashe was the son of Yosef. Yosef chibed et haaretz. Yosef had a very strong love for the land. Where do we find that? He told them, he said, look, when you leave, I'm going to die soon. When you leave, bring my bones with you out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, and bring up my bones to the land of Israel. We know famous Medrashim that, the pasuk says Moshe carried the bones of Yosef, and the Egyptians had him in this casket that had been sunk down, and it rose up. Many, many Midrashim. But at the simplest level, everyone has to agree, Yosef had a tremendous love for the land. Ubenotav chavavu et haaretz. And now it is his daughters, great granddaughters, chavavu et haaretz, who are showing this great love for the land. Shneimar says, Tenu lanu achuzah. Give us a holding over here in the land. So why specifically to Menashe? What would you say, my friends? Why there's going to be half a tribe? Why is Menashe a good candidate for that? Okay, it could be their size, right? What's the danger in settling across the Jordan? Isolation, and also the danger is becoming very comfortable in Irvine. That's the danger. It's beautiful here in Irvine. It's beautiful here across the Jordan, right? Do I want to go to Israel? I don't know. I don't know. It's really nice over here. Nice home, beautiful parks, tennis courts, bike lanes. I mean, it's great over here. Irvine's beautiful. So perhaps it needed to be Menashe, who was of Yosef, who had that tremendous love for the land, so that they wouldn't get too comfortable there in Irvine. They wouldn't, their heart, right? Libi b'mizrach is that famous, right? My heart, right? I might be out here in the West. My heart is in the East. Libi b'mizrach, right? That's where my heart is. Okay. Why might it have been important to have a tribe, any tribe, split? Right? It might just have been the size was, kind of like the three bears, too big for two, too small, not too hot, not too cold, not too big, not too small, right? It had to be, right? It was just right for 2.5. But might we think of another reason or reasons why it was important to have a split tribe? Yeah, yeah. Esther said, right? We don't want there to be two different nations. We always hear all these reports and these Pew reports, and they take is Israel and diaspora, are they becoming separated? Is it two different nations? Right? I just recently read, I think in the news yesterday, or that the Israeli ambassador to Ukraine or someone was saying how Ukraine needs to become like Israel. And amongst the things they listed is don't depend on anyone else for your security, right? Expressing our thanks to our wonderful partners, the United States, an incredible partner. But ultimately, when it comes to fighting the wars, Israel never said anyone else fight for us, right? And I think Golda Meir famously said, we have a secret weapon. What's our secret weapon? We have nowhere else to go. That is our secret weapon. And we're fighting, the soldiers are fighting to protect their fathers and their mothers and their brothers and their sisters and their wives and their children and their husbands and their children. That's who they're fighting for. So he said, right, that's one thing you need to learn from Israel. You have to take your own security on your own shoulders. And of course, with Israel, the Yad Hashem, the hand of Hashem. But another thing they said is make sure that you have strong connection to your diaspora. Your Ukrainians who are living outside of Ukraine, maintain strong connections with them, right? And we always hear, it's splintering apart, Israel and the diaspora. Having one tribe that was half here and half there, that is a way to make sure that we remain Am Echad. We remained as one nation, one people, and did not become two different nations that are over there. Now, another factor of Menashe in particular, let's turn back for a moment to page 230. 230 is, we're back in Bereshit, Perek Mem Aleph, Pasuk Nun Aleph, chapter 41, verse 51. Well, let's go verse 50, Nun. Uli Yosef Yulad Shnei Banim. And Yosef had 2 sons before the famine began that were born to him by Asnat Bar Potiphera Kohen Od. Yosef called the name of his Bechor Menashe. Why Menashe? Ki nashani Elokim et kol amali ve'et kol beit avi. God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's household. And we've dealt with this in depth in the past. According to some, Yosef had no idea that his father was mourning for him. He didn't know that his father thought he was dead. And that's why his father did not send out a search party and try to find him. He did not know that the brothers showed him his bloody coat. And the father said, Taraf, Taraf, Yosef, Joseph has been torn. And the father was inconsolable in his mourning for Joseph. So Yosef named his oldest son Menashe. Menashe is, my present will not be defined by the past. My present will not be inhibited, will not be imprisoned by my past, right? There's so much research that's been done that we see that people, children who grew up abused, very often themselves abuse their children. That becomes almost a template that they work off of. So often we feel we are or we do become prisoners of our past. And Menashe was, I'm moving forward. I will not become a prisoner of the past. In the end, he understood back going forward to Vayigash, where we were before, that's when Judah approached him and advocated. That's the first time that he heard that my father's been mourning me. And soon after he says, Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. But Menashe is a name that my present will not be defined by the past. And that is who this half tribe became. This half tribe was Menashe. That even though there was much strife in the past, right, and there was just this Meraglim episode that Moshe had been triggered with by their approaching him, and they said, no, this is not the past. This is moving forward to a glorious future. We are not deserting everyone else. We are going to be building the nation. We will help with the conquest. We will only return once that has been accomplished. And just one other idea on Vayikshu Elav. Again, they drew close to him. Besides that Vayigash connection, Vayikshu Elav means they drew close to him, right? It was when Moshe responded very angrily. Moshe was triggered, so to speak, when they approached him, because this sounded like Meraglim take two. And here we are, Moshe's thinking, 40 years later, are we going to fall prey to the same pattern of events, the same attitude? And very often, when a person reacts harshly to us, what is our gut reaction? Fire with fire, right? He yelled at me, I'm going to yell at him. She got snippy with me, I'll be snippy with her, right? So often we reflect when someone reacts a certain way, we fall into that trap of responding in kind. And Moshe responded very, very harshly, right? You have risen up in place of your fathers, a society of simple people, to add more to the burning wrath of Hashem against Israel. You will turn away from after him. He will again let it rest in the wilderness. You will destroy this entire people. Right? That was a very harsh response. Right? Right? Very often, what would our response be to that? How would we have how might we have responded with their response? No, you're wrong. You're overdoing it. You're overreacting. It's not what I had in mind. I'm willing to go forward. I'm willing to lead the way. They could have given the same offer, the same message in a way that matched Moshe's tone, Moshe's attitude. But they didn't. Vayikshu Elav. Right? In American politics, we talk about crossing the aisle. Right? Do we cross the aisle? Do we remain partisan or do we cross the aisle? Right? And very often in Congress, in order to show some rare acts of bipartisanship, they'll sit with one another. They'll cross the aisle, so to speak. And that's exactly what they did. Vayikshu Elah. They drew close to Moshe, almost putting their arm around him. And so often, a person might react in our lives, in our world. A person might react a certain way. We have no idea about the triggers that might have been touched, the sensitivities that might have been touched. We don't know this person. We don't know what this person has gone through. We don't know. And a person reacts a certain way. And our knee-jerk reaction is to meet fire with fire. Excuse me. And I think we can learn a lot from here. The Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, they didn't meet fire with fire. Vayikshu Elav. Right? They understood. Oh, Moshe, Nebuch. Right? Almost PTSD over the Meraglim incident over here. Oh, no. That's not what we're talking about. Right? But having that self-control and the generosity of spirit to say, okay, I'm not sure why this person has reacted as they have, but this is a bit of an overreaction. I must have touched a nerve over here. Let me lower the volume over here. Let me lower the intensity. Let me not, and that it just escalates. Let me see how we can tamp it down. That's exactly what they did. Vayikshu Elav. Right? Very, very, a wonderful skill to try to hone. Of Vayikshu Elav. To try to draw close. Also, we find the same term back by Yaakov when he was meeting up with Esav. Right? Vayigash Elav. Right? He drew and he bowed down to him. Ad gishto ad achiv. The other term is the same by Yigash, gishto, until he had drawn close to his brother. Right? That we need to try to build those bridges and be willing to build the bridge and start to cross over that bridge in terms of how we deal with one another. But once again, it is the words that we see that play such a crucial role in who we are and how we live and the world that we create around ourselves. Back in Bereshit, by the creation of mankind, it says a nefesh chaya, a living soul, and the Unkla says nefesh memalala, one who can speak. Whether it is Nadarim, whether it is conditions, whether it is our regular interactions, we have to recognize the power of the words that we use and the body language, the Yikshu love, that also speaks volumes. Okay, my friends, good seeing you online, good seeing you in person. Once again, those who can come in person, when you can, please do. We'd love to see you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Nice to see you, Aura. How is the Tzafon?
The fun, everything's good, hot.
Okay. Nechadim. That's what's
Fantastic.
says it. Beautiful.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome, Aurelia. Be well, Cheryl and Elizabeth and Kathy. Good. And Linda. Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Beautiful
Very
class.
well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.